All right, so thank you to all four of our presidential candidates. We're going to move on to 20 minutes of question period. So how this is going to work is we are going to go in reverse order for the first question, and then we'll skip the first person, and kind of so that not the same person is talking first every time. So we'll just kind of rotate that way. We'll go 20 minutes, so we'll say 3 minutes a candidate. You don't have to use the 3 minutes. Does that sound like a good thing? Okay, does anyone have any questions for your presidential candidates? Or else it's just 20 minutes of me. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so one question I had is that since the presidential role is an extremely busy role and you guys have a very busy schedule throughout the entire year, it often seems as if the president is a very hard person to approach. How do you guys propose that you will counter that?
Thank you. And Matt?
So a couple things, Aaron. First of all, as VP of Finance this year, I actually spent countless hours in the office. I was probably in the office for 4 hours a day when I was at school, easily. And I don't plan to take too many courses for the next 2 terms when I'm president. So I will take 3 courses each term, which is a manageable amount. I have been able to juggle part-time work, my own snow clearing business, 5 courses, and CSA before. So I don't anticipate it being a problem. And I think the biggest thing is being in the office or being in the school. So maybe it's taking an hour rather than sitting in the office speaking with just the CSA, walking around and talking to people upstairs. Just as the friendly face, ask how it's going, what are the things that you would like to see, things like that. So it's being present, I think, is the most important thing, and being approachable.
Thank you, Matt. Derek?
That's a great question, Aaron, and I really appreciate it. So to answer it, like I said in my campaign, I want to be as approachable as possible. I consider myself to be a people person. I enjoy conversing with all the students, and like I said, I'll be open to everyone's ideas and suggestions. As manager of corporate relations this year, I was fairly active being in the CSA office, and as president, I would only continue that and keep that going. As far as it goes for time management, I balance everything from working 30 hours a week, 5 classes, and coaching hockey. I don't see it being too much of an issue next year because, again, same issue as Matt. I'm very, very close to my graduation point, so I'll only have 2 or 3 classes a semester. But to build on that as well, I love walking around. I love being at Asper. So you'll often see me either upstairs or in the hallways, moving around and engaging with all the students. So I'll be a familiar face if I do get elected as president.
Thank you, Derek. And Carly?
So I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I also spent a lot of time in the CSA office this year. One thing for those of you who have spoken to me about my schedule before, I live pretty far from here, so I spend a lot of time here throughout my breaks at school. I was recently asked in a job interview what my hobbies were. I literally told the person interviewing me that I like talking to people. I love talking to people, hearing about their experiences, hearing what they're doing, and also hearing what they want to change about what they're doing. So this is absolutely something that I would continue if elected as president, even if not elected as president. If I'm on the CSA in any capacity, which I really do hope to be, then I do want to continue to be talking to people and hear about their opinions and about what they would like to see change. And yeah, I'm a little further from my graduation than Matt and Derek, only being in my 3rd year, but I have myself set up in a pretty good way that I'm not planning on taking the biggest course load where I will be too busy and too stressed out ever to talk to anyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Carly. And lastly, Devin.
Thanks, Mike. The CSA position the CSA president is a very heavy role, and this is one of the reasons that I've planned on taking a couple summer classes next year. By then, I should only have 5 classes left to graduate, with 2 in the fall and 3 in the winter. I believe that I'll have more than enough time to manage having these relationships at Asper. And Aaron, what it sounded like you were describing to me was what I talked about in my speech, developing a community here at Asper. And that's not just something that needs to be embodied by the CSA president is definitely the role that I will undertake. But a large part is also having every one of us meeting that goal of introducing themselves to somebody new every week and getting to know one another. I'll definitely take the first step in setting that example, but I believe that if we all try to get to know one another, then that's what's important as well. I'll leave you with what one thing I found was really important and meaningful, and that's being an Asper student is so much more than just getting accepted into the faculty. We are defined by our achievements and our culture, and we have the opportunity to let this be the legacy that we leave next year.
Thank you. We have a couple more hands up. Nick?
Thanks, Mike. So just as a general question, I know throughout all business schools in Canada and here even on the University of Manitoba campus, Asper is one of the only ones that elects a president and vice president and has the rest of the executive selected by the president and vice president. In my opinion, this has usually led to a lot of things during the camp period, which is somewhat questionable and could lead to just general networking and things throughout the period being almost negative, in my opinion. So what is your opinions, and do you see maybe a future in having a split between elected president and vice president, or moving towards a slate like other business schools in Canada? Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go in the same order, but we'll start with Derek this time. Thank you, Derek.
All right. So to answer your question, Nick, the reason I think it's pretty successful the way that our executive works is because it's all about building the culture. So the elected position as a president is to speak for the voice for all the students who want to, that president's supposed to embody the whole council. Now, as far as it goes for choosing your executive, you spend a lot of time with each other. I've witnessed this executive group this past year. They've been tremendous. They've really achieved great things this year, but they really collaborated well, and they had a great culture amongst them. So I think having to miss out on that kind of opportunity and potentially have some headbutting between executives isn't going to help it at all. So as far as it goes for the way that our system works, I think it's shown in the past to be very successful, and I don't think it's necessary to change it. If there were issues that would start to arise, I could see it, but right now it's all about building that culture, and if you can craft the team and all be on the same path and the same goal, you're going to be successful regardless of if you were elected in or chosen. So I think as it sits right now, I think it's a good system.
Thank you. Carly?
Thanks for your question, Nick. I know we've talked about this a little bit. One of the biggest pros that I see to having the president and VPO not running in a slate is that everyone has to showcase their individual talents and what they as an individual have to bring to the table. I think when you're running as a slate, you see the slate's ideas as a whole. You don't know which person is bringing those ideas, and you don't know which person holds those qualities. I believe that by allowing us to run individually and showcase ourselves individually, you know who you're voting for in each individual position. I think we saw that in the UMSU election last year when people did start to sway away from just blindly voting for an entire slate. And when you get that as well, where you ran in a slate and now you're not elected with your slate, there may be some hostility between the members because you may have specifically said you were not interested in running with that person, and now you've been elected and you're forced to work together. Forced might be a harsh word there. But definitely I think as well in the capacity of choosing our executives, I think that the interview process and the president VPO being able to choose them allows them to find people that they believe would work well with them, and it allows them to take their collective vision from the separate things that they campaigned on and turn that into a full team that supports that vision and that they believe will work to execute that vision. Thanks.
Thank you. Devin?
Thanks, Mike. The current culture at Asper is one of collaboration, but it is also one of heavy competition. And if we put each other into teams and pit them against each other, we're going to see a lot more animosity once the election is over. By allowing each other to establish our individual goals and by forcing us not to just use the ideas of the slate and finding a bunch of our friends to run with. It forces us to independently come up with what we believe in, and then afterwards figure out a way to join them together on the executive and make that the CSA's goal and the direction that we're going to take for the rest of the year. The other thing is, this is a great period for brainstorming. And if we were running as slates, you'd just have the 2 individual groups. But with 4 president-elects, a VPO, a couple of senators running, we've all come up with some magnificent ideas, and I know that after the election, we're going to take all of that into account, regardless of what happens. And you might not see that same amount of collaboration and collaborative networking with a system that's slated.
Thank you, Devin. And finally, we'll have Matthew, sorry.
Okay, so as VP of Finance this year, I've had the opportunity to go to 2 Canadian Association of Business Students conferences. And what I've learned in a lot of the sessions that we've talked about is that, yes, Nick, you're right, a lot of those positions are elected for other schools. But the problem with that is that they have constant human resources issues throughout the entire year. So when we're sitting in these sessions talking with all the other VP finances or presidents or whatever our position is, all we're hearing about is all of the issues that they're having, and half the time it's issues with people. So the difference with us and the way our system works is you elect 2 people to create the strategic vision for the CSA, working to work with the students, find out what that strategic vision is. And then you pick the team that you know is the best team to implement that strategic vision. So what kind of a finance person do you need for that position? What kind of a marketing person do you need for that vision? Really think about each of the portfolios and pick the best person for that job. Simply running is not necessarily the best way. A popularity contest is not going to be the best way to determine who is really running the CSA. So I think from my experience, as I said at these conferences, I've really come to learn that our system probably works the best. Honestly, I don't think we had any issues to raise with personnel among the exec at these conferences, and that's all we were hearing from the other schools. So I think we're in a pretty good position.
Thank you, Matt. We have a 3rd question here.
Okay, so I believe that engaging students and engaging external sponsors comes from efficient and accurate marketing. In the past, that marketing has been very efficient for some groups of students and some groups of external sponsors. But how do you propose, if elected, you're going to seek to change your marketing strategy to sort of cater to all students and all potential sponsors?
Thank you. We'll start with Carly.
Thanks, Aaron. I think a big part about marketing events to sponsors is by marketing things that the sponsors are wanting. So that starts from a structural level of ensuring that our events, they've been awesome for so many years, but they've been very similar for so many years. So it's making sure that sponsors are still interested and liking those events that they're being pitched, that they are being asked to come to. Is a big part in making sure that they still want to come to these events and sponsor the CSA as a whole. Another big part of that is making sure with the STAG events that the MCRs know what they're pitching. Bring back the MCR pitch night, have the MCRs know exactly what the STAG events are, who they're catering to, and how these sponsors will get benefit out of them will help the MCRs do a better job pitching all events from all around the university. In terms of marketing itself, once again, I think that it's going back to making sure that the events are things that students and sponsors are wanting to go to. Working with those different stakeholder groups of students that are not just this core involved group that's sitting right here that will probably come to any event we put in front of them. Working with the first years, working with the international students, and making sure that they're still finding value in our events and that we're also giving events that they're interested in, because those are different stakeholder groups that different sponsors will be interested in as well. Thanks.
Thank you, and we'll have Devin.
So we've got 2 things that you brought up here, and the first is internal marketing and promotions and reaching all of the students. there's two ways we're going to get there. And the first is international promotions, a new position on the CSA engaging the international community. And the second is working with the Career Development Center to market their events as well. They've got resume building and interview preparation and public speaking workshops. They're just not marketed as well as our events because they don't have the same reach. Working together, we can reach the entire student body and the international community, which, as we brought up, was a fifth of our population. Now, externally as well, what we need to do there is redefine the value of our events. For example, Business Banquet this year. Lots of the individuals that came from industry were people that at the last minute wanted to go. The company sent them because they wanted to. Lots of the time they weren't just recruiters and people that were actually looking to employ you or tell you about their company. Or the organizations that are funding these events see them as marketing opportunities, not opportunities to hire and look for future human resources talent. And this is an issue. We need to recreate the value in our events like Business Banquet that are the big attractions for sponsors. And we need to show them that there's still an opportunity here for them, and that's how we're going to get further sponsorship and marketing from the exterior as well as the interior.
Thank you, Devin. We have Matt next.
So I'll address both issues. I'll start with internal marketing. So I mentioned in my speech that I want to work on an approach called focused market segmentation. So we can really, let's go with every single event. We'll have a meeting at the start of the year with the entire marketing portfolio and say, what is the value for this event? Why do students come? Why do sponsors come? Why is it valuable for an actuary? Why is it valuable for an HR major? The same for a first year and a fourth year. What's the value? Once we understand the value, we can design a marketing strategy that actually works for each of these groups. One poster, one slide on the screen is not going to cut it. We need to have custom marketing for the different groups to actually reach out to them and appeal to them. There's different reasons you attend events. And then if you're going to look at the sponsors, I'm going to have to fundamentally disagree. The reason that the sponsors attend these events is to network with students and to hire students. As a past manager of corporate relations, this is the only value they're looking for in events, and this is the only reason they attend. It's the reason why new initiatives like Take a Student to Eat, where a company representative will sit down with one student one-on-one for half an hour, have skyrocketed. Companies love these events. All they want to do is network with people. They want to hire you. So this is the fundamental reason that they attend our events, and this is what I will work to ensure that there is value in these events. It's why we've seen some events that, the corporate golf tournament where they only get to interact with a very small number of students. That's why sponsorship's declining. They don't get to reach out and contact as many students.
We'll have Derek next.
Thanks, man. All right, so to answer your question, it's as an MCR this past year, I got a real good inside look at what goes on in those companies and what they're looking to see, those reps. And I agree with Matt. They're looking to network with us. In the unfortunate situation where they might not send their recruiter, usually it's just due to poor timing. Maybe a ball got dropped somewhere and it was a last minute issue that they couldn't send in their HR manager or whatnot. But fundamentally, they're always looking to recruit students. So to kind of build on the marketing aspect of it, one of the biggest keys of my platform is to try to get people to collaborate a little bit more with each other, build that camaraderie. Why I see that being as valuable is because let's think back to any event that we went to. Let's say it was our first or second year, we decided to go to Business Banquet, right? A lot of times we went because we had a friend going, and our friend was like, hey, let's go to it. Let's go to the table, it'll be more comfortable, the two of us sit together, then we can approach these reps. For those students who aren't already involved, they're not actively knowing other students here, it becomes very difficult for them to get involved in those events. And that's why you kind of see, with our marketing, the same group of students attending all our events. So with my approach, if we can have some more relationship building events just locally and kind of grow as a community of Asper, and then we're going to get more people to come and get to those events. We're going to have a broader, more diverse group of students attending the Business Banquet. There's going to be more value in it for the reps then to come because they're not seeing the same faces at every networking event, right? So I feel that that's very important. And back kind of just to the MCR aspect of it, it's all about learning what they want. Like, it's all about crafting your sales pitch and getting them excited for the event. So bringing back pitch night would be great because to embody the event planner's idea and their concept and what they want to do at the event, you really can translate that in your sales pitch to those corporate reps. And that's what they want to see. They want to see the excitement, they want to have that value built, and that's going to expand our marketing altogether as well and get more companies involved, because they'll hear it down the pipeline. They'll be like, this company was involved, they had a great time, we should get involved as well. And that's how I see it moving forward.
Thank you. So we have time for one more question. We're gonna change it up a bit. We're gonna have 1 minute a candidate for this question just to stay in our time limit. And we are, I'm not gonna come up here, just pass it on to the next person. So it'll be Devin, Matthew, Derek, and then Carly. And we have one question here, Austin.
So I'm going to keep this simple so you guys only have a minute for this. Let's be real. The majority of Asper students won't get involved. The people that are sitting behind you are the same people that will sit behind you at every single event. What can you do for the students who do not want to get involved?
Again, having brought this up at the beginning, there is a number of students that don't get involved, and I think that that's okay. A number of them have busy schedules, and they've got extracurricular commitments. They're in sport. They've got a part-time job, and that's fine. That's a separate group. We can do things for them as well, like providing them free coffee, and the networking events are still valuable to them. The workshops are still of value to them. They don't need to be on the CSA council. And that's what we can do for them. And then there's another group of people that would like to get involved but haven't had the opportunity. And that's where opportunities like role shadowing for CSA positions come into play. Even if they're first, second year, this is a great way for them to get involved, even though they didn't have the opportunity before.
So I don't want to keep reiterating the same point, but we got to look at all the events and understand what the value is and see who we can appeal to. The fact of the matter is, not everybody's going to attend every event, and that we have to be okay with that, because we just will not ever get everybody out. There are many reasons why students can't attend events other than just lack of interest. People can be working. I mean, how many people in Asper have part-time jobs while they're going to school? A large number. So let's work with the students who want to attend. Let's reach out. Let's constantly have communications targeted for everybody. Those who choose to accept the communication and engage, great. And those who don't, we can't worry too much about it, because the reality is they'll never be invested. And I would rather spend my time making sure that the experience is the best for those who want to be invested than trying to appeal to those who will never be invested.
I agree with Matt fully on that point. There's different segments of people who get involved at different levels. You can't please everyone, but if we can make the events more accessible, so there's different levels of commitment from every individual here at Asper. Trying to encourage people to get more involved will benefit them in the long run, but the matter is really just make it accessible. You know, have events that are more located at Asper and at Drake here. Make it easier for people to get involved and kind of build their way up. So I kind of see it as being 4 levels. There's people who start right out of high school, they'll get involved and go to business banquet, they'll go to networking events. There's people who will need a little bit more encouragement. There are people who maybe will get in their 3rd year, 4th year, and all of a sudden want to make up for the time lost, and they'll go to every event. And then there's some that just won't get involved at all. It's just trying to find some sort of event that can kind of bring all those groups together and get them to work at achieving their ultimate goal of getting the most experience they can out of their Asper experience. So you can't please everyone, but if you can at least try, that's kind of the goal here.
So I don't want to sound like a broken record again, but there are students who won't want to get involved. But just this past weekend, I was volunteering at the first year case comp. I was able to watch 7 out of the 10 presentations. I learned a lot about different groups and what they want to see to help them get involved. I saw what first years wanted and what they wanted more to feel like they were being involved, and I saw some aspects that all of the international student groups were recommending in their cases in order to involve more international students. I think those are groups that you want to focus on to help them feel more included, and work on groups as themselves. You can't work on everyone has different reasons of why they're not getting involved. Some people have commitments as soon as they're done classes. Some people need to be working more than others in order to ensure that they're able to pay for their next semester of school. And those are things that we have to be respectful of, and not forcing them or asking them to buy a ticket to every single event if that's not feasible for them. But it's making sure that the events that they want to go to are available to them, and making that our events things that they want to go to. if you have an event specifically for international students, or if you have a more casual, less intimidating event for first years, they hear about it from their friend, they're more likely to go than a random person asking them in the fishbowl to go to Business Banquet, which is our biggest and most intimidating event of the year, I believe.
Thank you. So that concludes the presidential section of today's event.